Nishith Desai, founder and managing partner at Nishith Desai Associates, is with us. Mr. Desai, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago as well when the government made its intent clear that they are sticking to it. Now, a few weeks later, possible, and this is purely speculation right now, but source-based coming in from a government official that there may be a rollback as well. How significant is this? And considering that the finance bill has already been passed and Parliament is not in session, what would be the way that this rollback could be done?
I think we'll have to not only have a rollback, but I think we'll have to take really big bang announcement to bring investors back into the country. Because there are two major sources of capital, and they are both either private equity or FPI. And FPI constitutes major, contributor to the secondary market. And we already lost over $100 billion, I believe, in market cap, over a period of last one month. Now to get them back, get them confidence, and also see that in future not only we just get back where we were, but we have to move upwards. So you really need to have both the things done. One, to roll back, and now we have to give some package. For example, government should consider to give complete tax exemption even for the long-term or capital gains. 99.9% of the countries in the world do not tax FPIs. Number two, the returns from India have been one of the lowest in international markets. So if you look at China, if you look at Japan, if you look at S&P, you'll find that the returns are lower. On the top of it, this tax cost is reducing the returns. And number three, there is a myth that, this tax doesn't affect the small person. Actually, most of the investors in this FPIs or in India equivalent of, say, let's say Cat 3, the investors are pension plans, insurance companies, and sovereign funds and other ones as well. And so effectively, the tax goes out of their hands. And particularly for FPI, whatever tax is imposed in India is not always creditable back home in the hands of the investors. So we have to really do serious thinking about not only just getting back where we were, but I think we have to do something more than that. And it's an opportunity to do proper thinking and bring in regulations. I would recommend, yes, principles be decided, but drafting, we should be very careful. And that is what would be my request to the government.
Right, Mr. Desai, following up on this again on a tax exemption, perhaps will there be a specific category you would be actually suggesting or talking about, or it would be again painted with a broad brush, like exemption for which type of categories?
Well, I think particularly we are talking about FPIs, and that is where the exemption is needed. As far as private equity is concerned, the exemption is not there, and people are not necessarily expecting. But if it is excessive tax, we just need to consider because it's all pass-through treatment or otherwise. So I am talking about FPIs in particular. Almost no country taxes them on the portfolio investment in the country. And if you want to compete, foreign taxes are cost. And number two, that the returns from India, if you see the compare, is also pretty low as against China or Japan or US. Right. And on the top of it, this tax. So I think we have to really make up for that in many ways.
Right. Mr. Desai, if you could give us an indication, it's been a month since this was announced, and since 2 or 3 weeks since the government clarified that this, of course, applies to FPIs. In this period, have there been any FPIs who've actually attempted to convert to the corporate model? I mean, is that something that they have begun looking at, and what happens to those that have initiated this process? Now, will they have to roll back, put it on hold? I mean, there's a lot of confusion with regards to what happens next.
I think not many have really turned themselves into corporate in our experience, and people are trying to understand the implications of converting into corporates, and there are quite a few implications. And not only that, as I told last time to your viewers, that this FPIs have been formed often under the domestic legislation, like Massachusetts Business Trust or otherwise, and therefore, and their investment in India may be just about 1%. So just for 1% or 0.5% of investment global allocation, would they change the whole structure? It is very problematic, and there is no guarantee that they change to corporate this year, and again they bring additional tax on corporate next year. So there are quite a few problems in turning it. Restructuring is expensive, time consuming, and elaborate exercise, and without any certainty about the future tax consequences, they would be reluctant to just jump into changing the structure. So while people are examining what could be the implications, I do not think many of them have really. Everybody has been expecting that government will do something about it, but I think it's been too late, in the day that, anything is being done, but better late than never. So I think now people are anxiously looking forward to tomorrow's meeting with Finance Minister.
Right. Mr. Desai, before I let you go, just a follow-up on that, and I keep coming back to the legal question. I mean, now that the finance bill has been passed and Parliament is not in session, could there be other measures that the government may look at, maybe a moratorium or grandfathering over here? And also, in terms of your feedback from clients, already this FPI surcharge was an issue, but should there be a rethink on LTCG as well?
Rethink on?
Long-term capital gains?
Yeah, see, actually, one thing is that we have to roll back. I don't think there is any question anybody has in doubt. And grandfathering means if you are, up to a particular date, those funds have invested, you can say you will grandfather. But then grandfathering goes on for forever or not. So grandfathering is not an answer to this question, number one. Number two, because they would say, okay, grandfather existing ones, but the new one must form corporate. You have the same problem because you can't meet jurisdictional requirements. So that's the one thing. Second thing, that now just rolling back would also be sufficient is still a question mark. And we have to really incentivize and really, I would say, entice these funds to come to India. They have already found place somewhere else in the world. So and third, they have made huge losses in last 1 month. So, instead of collecting more tax, government has really depleted the wealth, and then, there will be losses reported. So what happens to the losses now, Would they be able to recoup the losses? Because if they change structure or if they do otherwise, they have to, so I think the buyback and all that thing is quite a hassle. But anyway, coming to the point that yes, government must roll back, but we'll now have to take some extra steps or walk extra mile to bring confidence back into the markets.
Point, Mr. Desai, not only should they roll back, but also they should give added incentives or extra measures to ensure that India becomes an attractive destination once again. Amidst the global doom and boom, India can't afford to let this kind of capital flight continue. Thanks so much, Mr. Desai, for joining in for a quick take. Meanwhile, the markets have found a mind of their own today. It's a near 200-point rally that we're seeing on the